Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to watch Restoration That Returns Value. My name is Ryan, and before starting this presentation, I just want to thank UNESCO and Learning Planet Institute for giving me the amazing opportunity of hosting my own event at the 2026 Learning Planet Festival. In this presentation, I will be talking about how conservation efforts help support economic activity and how, in the future, in the long term, sustainable lifestyles will not only be economically viable, but they will also be economically advantageous. So, here's a little bit about the Learning Planet Festival. It is a festival held every year that helps support and celebrate the UN International Day of Education that's celebrated on the 24th of January every year. It is hosted by UNESCO and Learning Planet Institute, and it's an amazing opportunity for both youth and senior changemakers to share their voices about their respective fields. So here is the table of contents slide where you can see everything that I'm going to go over in this presentation. In the background, you can actually see a real video of the real Reformer site. So if you want to check out our rich biodiversity, then you can watch the video. I will first start with myself, who I am, where I come from, and also my leadership, academic, and sustainability experiences in the past. Then I will introduce my NGO, Reeformers, and our environmental, social, and economic impact after 4 years of operation under the sea. Then I will talk about the environment economic loop, which is a closer analysis on how a better environment shapes the economy and how a really healthy environment is a very solid foundation for an economy to grow and thrive. Then I will talk about the necessity of youth and why youth are essential for implementing sustainable economies and creating a new movement that will provide for people and provide for the world. So here's a little bit about me. I'm currently 14 years old from Jakarta, Indonesia, but before living in Jakarta, I lived in Manado in North Sulawesi, Indonesia for about 10 years. I'm currently in grade 10 or sophomore in high school, and I'm the co-founder of an NGO called Reeformers. And I'm also the founder of one of Reeformer subdivision, Edukasi, which focuses on ocean literacy and ocean education. I also recently started a new venture called Magnaminds, which is focused on neurodiversity research and inclusive education. Through my efforts with Reformers and Edukasi, I was blessed enough to come to the Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development at the UN SCAP headquarters in Bangkok. In 2023, I was invited to be a guest on a international TV station called Southeast Asia Today on their morning show talk show. I'm part of my school's student council in the activities sector specifically, and I also hold two leadership positions for school clubs. One in Loud Inda, which is my school's marine conservation club, and one in Triam, which is my school's music honor society. Speaking of music, I'm part of my school's honor octet, which is the top 8 vocalists of my school, and I also placed in the top 5 of a global vocal competition called the AMI Solo Ensemble Festival. So here is a little bit about Reformers. My brother and I founded Reformers in December of 2021, and we are an NGO that's based in North Sulawesi, Indonesia, with the aim of building ocean habitats and reefs to empower coastal communities through coral transplantation, which is our primary method of conservation, and eco-dive tourism trips. So Reformers has been featured on an assortment of media, the most notable of which is Southeast Asia Today morning show, which I mentioned briefly before. Festivals like the World Oceans Day 2023 at UNHQ in New York, Global Goals Week, and also National Geographic Indonesia on both the magazine and the website. So here is the problem that I'm trying to solve through this presentation. I also want to clarify that Reformers mainly solves environmental problems, but through our work with coastal communities, we learned of a deeper social and economic problem. That problem mainly arises from two reasons. The first reason is that environmental conditions are not suitable for resources to multiply and grow. When environmental conditions are not suitable, harvesters have nothing to harvest, which keeps economic activity stagnant. Second, resources are being depleted faster than they are being replenished. Because of illegal practices like overfishing, overharvesting, and over extracting, we are running out of resources, which keeps economic activity still stagnant. This is shown through the socioeconomic inequality, which is a really prevalent problem in Indonesia in general. And an example of this is the 6.7% poverty rate in North Sulawesi in 2025. So, how exactly does the environment shape the economy? Well, the two examples that I just mentioned are examples of vicious economic cycles, and it starts with a depleted natural resource. Since the resource is depleted, the production cost to create products is higher. And since the production cost is higher, the price for the product is also higher. Since the price of the product is higher, this creates a domino effect of demand decreasing since it is more expensive and less people want to buy the product, and harvesters overcompensating to make up for the depletion of the resource and the low demand. Because they make up too much at once, they harvest too much, and the resource cannot replenish itself before it depletes. Even though companies gain a lot in a short amount of time because of harvesters overcompensating, in the long term, the resource will just continue to deplete and deplete until the resource completely runs out in the area. This economic cycle prioritizes short term gains but leads to long term instability. However, there's a second type of economic cycle which is beneficial for both the economy and the environment called the virtuous economic cycle, and it starts with conservation work. The conservation work will lead to natural resources regenerating, which keeps the production costs lower and keeps the prices predictable and stable. This means that demand is steady and consistent. So, even though short term gains might not increase as rapidly, over time, the natural resource will replenish itself and long term gains will stay consistent. This economic cycle prioritizes long term resilience and growth over short term gains. So, now you might be thinking, this virtuous economic cycle, huh? It seems good in theory, but it might not work in practice. Well, this is the virtuous economic cycle applied to the economy of the fishery industry. It starts with conservation investment and law enforcement against practices like overfishing. So, the improved conservation and law enforcement will lead to improved water quality in the area and a boost of fish population in the area as less people are overfishing. Because of the boost of population, the stock of fish will increase, which stabilizes supply, prices, and demand, and leads to long term gains in the future. So now you've heard some theory, but let's get into the real numbers. Reeformers allocates around 250 million Indonesian rupiah for coastal community based conservation. That is the real number that we pay every single year, and that converts to about 16,000 US dollars. This funding supports local employment, including divers and backup divers, boatmen who drive the boat, and underwater and surface photographers. So, Reformers conducts monthly monitoring trips, which exist for two main reasons. The first of which is so that our corals stay healthy and we can make sure that they are not attacked by an invasive algae or anything like that. The second reason is so that we can sponsor coastal communities and help their financial well being. Each time we do a monitoring activity, we take around 20 people, and that means that we pay each worker every year 800 US dollars. That means that every month, every single monitoring activity, we pay each worker 67 US dollars. And I know that that might not sound like a lot, but it's all relative because income in Indonesia is a lot less than in other countries. The mean monthly income in the maritime sector in North Sulawesi is about 120 US dollars. That means that every week, conservation activity with reformers provides income equivalent to about 13.75% of the average monthly income, plus their real day job that they work 9 to 5. Remember that reformers still operates on a very local scale. Imagine conservation based employment implemented at the national scale. It can be amazing for the environment, it can be amazing for economies, and it can be amazing for people's quality of life. This is a great example of a virtuous economic cycle, as our conservation work improves the ecosystem each time and keeps the monthly monitoring schedule going. I would also like to clarify that Reforms itself is a non-profit organization, but to support coastal communities, we work with third-party for-profit organizations like diving clubs so that we can help their financial well-being. Examples are Nudung Family, Bobocha Diving Club, Kokima Divers, and Dragonet Divers. So here are some of our KPIs after 4 years of operation, but I want to point out three that are really, really important for the economy and the environment. The first of which are 3,000 safe wild corals that we've planted into our site. The second is 250 new species that we've introduced to the ecosystem. And the last is 190 household incomes that we contribute to each year due to our economic impact. So now we're at the final topic of this presentation. What's in it for youth exactly? Well, only my fellow youth are capable of widespread implementation of a sustainable economy, as they are our future world leaders. If youth spread the word for a sustainable economy, we can create a new generation that can provide for themselves while also upholding sustainable practices and lifestyles. So, to guide youth, I've created 5 simple steps that youth can take to become a change maker in their community and beyond. And it starts with learning. Research about what you're interested in. For me, it wasn't necessarily coral transplantation. It started with a fascination for marine creatures in general, but then eventually I also got interested in what makes an ecosystem healthy, and coral reefs were one of them. My second recommendation is to start small. Never wait for the perfect opportunity to start. And don't delay your action because you're waiting for that perfect opportunity, because there will never be a perfect opportunity. Just start trying to make a difference in your community and you'll be on your way. My third recommendation is to collaborate. When I first tried to reach out to the marine biologist that's now on the Reeformers team, I was really nervous and I was thinking to myself, like, man, will a guy with 1,000 college degrees really want to join a team started by two kids in grade school? Well, I ignored those thoughts and I sent the email, and look where we are now. My fourth recommendation is to track and share your progress and what you've done in the past. Document if something went well or if something didn't go so well. If something went wrong, then analyze what went wrong and make sure you do better in the future. If something went well, good for you, but always remember what about it went well so you can repeat it for the next time. My fifth recommendation is to grow the movement. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone what you're doing and how you're doing it. Remember that you cannot become a real change maker alone. You need a really, really solid team behind you and a really, really good support system. Who knows? Maybe if you tell the right person, they can give you an opportunity that'll change your life. Thank you so much for attending Restoration That Returns Value. I really appreciate your time and that you wanted to learn from me and my experiences. If you're interested at all in Reformers, please check out our Instagram at reformers.id and also our website www.reformers.org. Remember that saving the ocean and the world starts with you. The ocean thanks you.